Hey guys, welcome back to Cultured. It's your homegirl, it's your host, Bromley. I'm so glad we get to be together once more. And today, like always, we have a special guest with us, and our topic is religion dying? Ooh, let's get to it. So, guys, like I said, we have a special guest. His name is Dima Frost. He's absolutely super talented. Like, I know this guy's like, I've said this about possibly everyone that has been on the podcast, but Dima is super, super talented. He's one of the singers in the Sofia Gospel Choir. So that's just one of the things that he does, amongst others. but like, I'm honestly so I feel so blessed to be surrounded by such talented people. But say hi to Dima, everyone.
Hello.
Do you want to say something about yourself for our listeners?
Well, you've given me quite a big introduction. People have their expectations high now.
Oh, please. There's so much more. There's so much. I know there's some more.
No.
But yeah.
Well, I'm Ukrainian.
Oh, wow.
I feel like this is under international these days. It's not international enough.
No, I think there's so many amazing Ukrainians here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More these days now, actually.
Yeah.
They've made it easier for us to come.
But yeah, what is one interesting thing about yourself that you'd like to tell people about yourself?
Today, somehow I feel like saying I'm left-handed.
Oh, wow.
There we
go.
Yeah, right? That's like the most interesting fact.
I'm right-handed.
Wow, no way. Now, I was just talking to a friend earlier about how the world is discriminating left-handed people. So,
wow. Yeah.
Did you notice every single door handle is for the right hand?
Oh my gosh. You could, with all the stuff that's going around in the world right now, you could bring that up.
Let's not use it.
Like, Dima's got a petition to sign.
Oh no.
Do you see how many petitions are going around now? Like, everything is, but hey, like, more awareness, I think it's the better. But anyway, so we are stepping onto a big topic today, guys, and it is religion dying? Oh my gosh, like, it's like such a big, me and Dima were discussing about this, and Dima and I, were discussking about this, and we were like, oh my gosh, like, this topic is so huge. Like, there's so many aspects of, I saw some basically YouTube videos before just to kind of do some research.
Okay.
And there's statistics and like case studies, and I'm like, what? But we're just going to do a more of, like... Yeah,
like disclaimer, non-academic view.
Yeah. It's going to be, like what we've drawn from our experiences and things like that. So yeah, I think I'll just point the question that way, Do you think religion's dying, do you?
That's actually a question I asked myself at some point.
Wow, yeah.
And that's why I got so interested in this topic. Do you want the short answer, or should I go with the longer version?
However you want to do it, man. This question is...
Yeah, the topic is big.
Yeah.
The biggest spark for me, I've been thinking about this on and off throughout my life.
Yeah.
In different depth. But the first time I got really concerned and kind of, not scared, but like concerned, was when we went to the team building with our company.
Okay.
And our boss is a really cool guy, and he always tries to make us discuss socially important topics on the bus while we're going to the place.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it started from, what was it called? Like minimum basic income.
Okay.
The topic of guaranteed income, no matter what you do, you can be unemployed or whatever.
Yeah, a minimum wage kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to work.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, of course.
So it's like, yeah, right. Right. Well, it's a topic of its own. It's kind of controversial. All the richest people of the world support it. And many people say like, you're crazy. But anyway, we started there, and we ended up talking about religion. I don't know how that happened. But at that point, it became kind of scary because usually people would say like, well, cool, that's your worldview. Or they'd be like, oh, Christian, that's like, they would criticize that specifically. And they'd say, my religion's better or something like that. Or they wouldn't talk about it at all. Yeah. But on this bus, it was different because this time there were two very vocal people who started really, really pushing on the point that, you know what, religion is cancer. It's cancer on humanity, on this planet. It has to be eradicated, completely eliminated, deleted, and forgotten. And I was like, wow, that's some strong, wording.
Yeah.
But they were very passionate about this. And to an extent that everyone else just got silenced. People didn't know what to say. So it ended up being this kind of bus debate between two of them and me.
Oh, so it's two. So both of them were on the side that religion needs to be eradicated, and you were like, nah, like, okay.
They were like, this is bad. And, their argument was that it might have done some good in the past. Okay. It probably has brought some minor progress.
Right.
It gave people who had no moral code some kind of moral code. But that was it. They were like, maybe that's it. Today, it's evil. Today, it's forcing people to do stupid things. It's controlling people. It's telling women what to do with their bodies and what not to do with their bodies. It's discriminating against minorities. Like they're saying all those things and they say, this is what religion is today. It's nothing good. So that, and they weren't just, discussing it as a subject separated from all of us. They were talking about it as if they're in the, European Parliament about to make a final call on this. Oh, wow. Like they were very, very strong and they felt it almost, the atmosphere in the bus got very heavy.
Oh yeah. Of course, anytime religion comes in, I think it's pretty tense. Like
when we got off the bus, my boss wrote me and he was like, because we all spread out very quickly, and he wrote me, he said, hey, I hope you're fine. Because he knows I'm a believer, and he's like, okay, chill, please don't leave the company or something. The guys in the bus, were they particularly saying that regarding Christianity, or were they talking about that religion in every aspect should be? I think they were generally against any religion and all of it.
Okay.
In the context of Bulgarian culture, they were specifically dissatisfied with the Orthodox Church as well. So they associated all of Christianity with that too. And here they see, this is not me just spreading bad news or something. It's just known facts that some of the religious workers in this country drive Bentleys and all sorts of things. And they have these villas. And everyone's asking, how did you get that? And they say, oh, the donations and support from the faithful people. And people who look at that, they say, okay, look, even though I'm not part of this church, this doesn't make any sense. Like, what? He's not doing anything significant, and he has all that lifestyle. And people who come to churches are not the rich people who give like from their wealth. It's the grannies and kids, the weak parts of the society. In their eyes, this is how it looks like. It's abusing the society for your personal gain.
Oh wow! So from that encounter with your workmates, like what did you draw from that regarding this whole like?
There was one specific thought that was kind of haunting me after that conversation. And that was because I'm actually on very good terms with my colleagues. And our company is small and very friendly, and we're like a very tight community. But I realized that in a flick of a switch, all of them can just immediately turn around and hate me.
Yeah.
They can just set themselves up against me just in an instant. And it's not going to be anything I did.
It's just like you can't even like kind of express what you believe in, and you're like, no, we need that removed from.
They don't stop me in any way.
Okay.
But hearing how they feel about the topic made me realize that maybe they're not, because with me, they first put our personal relationships. They don't care anything else, like who I am, where I'm from. That's secondary.
Okay.
But I realized it's not going to be that way forever. And that for the society at large, it seems like there is a growing, understanding that this is old-fashioned, outdated, irrelevant, and dangerous.
See, like, because when I was doing all this kind of like listening into the talks and stuff, do you think the way they say, sometimes I kind of wonder when people ask me like, what is your religion? Like, I can't kind of associate Christianity to being a religion. It's like, it's okay, yeah, for like when, conversations like, yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm a Christian, But for me, when I think of Christianity, it's not like, if I was actually listening to one of the talks and one of the, I think, preachers was saying that it's like Jesus actually came on earth to, like, in a way, Jesus was going against this whole religion thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, like, it wasn't... So, for me, even when I think of Christianity, I'm like, religion seems like something that is... The word religion is somehow putting that... It's like a box, and you're putting, like, Christianity under it. And it's... I don't see, like, Christianity to be something that... Because we follow, why do we call ourselves Christians? Because we follow Jesus, and Jesus came to earth, and he was going against the religious leaders of his time,
Yeah.
So like when people say, do you think that when people say like, oh yeah, I'm let's say, just give me, I don't know, help me out if you can, but like, when they say religion, they're talking about all the rules and regulations and things like that. I think that's what the
framework.
Yeah. Do you think, does that make sense in any way?
Yeah. I mean, I actually know people who call themselves Christian, and they say they're against religion. Like, that's actually separate for many people. I also like this. I mean, Jesus did come to also break some of those rigid structures that people built around God.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
To stop people from coming to God, and to kind of put, certain rules on how you're supposed to do things when God didn't really expect them to do that. But at the same time, I'm glad I heard one other sermon that went back and explained the word religion, like how it formed and why it formed. And I'm not gonna like tell the whole thing over again, but at the center of that is actually the same thing that we now call faith, and we separate it from religion. So religion then was the same, that it was trying to achieve the same thing that we're now saying we need to separate ourselves from religion.
So
it's this personal. Anyway, it's
No.
It's
like
funny.
I think that's a important thing you just said, because like, of course that word must have originated with the faith in God and everything in it, but now it's big. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's what we've done with it,
Yeah.
We've made like, oh yeah, this is how things are interpreted, or this is how things should be, and we put God in a box,
We became the same Pharisees.
Yeah.
We're sticking to the rules. We're sticking to the checklists. We're like, this is what you have to be doing to be considered a good Christian in this case.
Yeah.
And it's actually not the same thing as actual faith and religion. And not even that. It's not the same as having a relationship with God. Like, that's the deep, deep, deep core thing, the root.
Yeah, but do you think, and like, when you think about Bulgaria, where do you think, in that, let's say, I don't know, religion or faith, I don't know what it's looking like over here, but what do you think, where do you think people are headed in that aspect?
Well, I have a two-part answer because it depends on who we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because in Bulgaria, I guess you noticed by now that people just assume they're they put an equal sign between their passport and religion. They say, if you ask them, "Are you Christian?" They'll say, "Of course, I'm Bulgarian, so I'm Christian."
Yes, I've noticed that. One thing that I think that's kind of different from the other people in the I think in the States and stuff like that. People say, I don't identify to any religion.
Yeah,
but
even if they're believers, they'll be like, I'm independent.
And here I've noticed that even though they are they practicing Christians or not, they say they're Christian.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I found very fascinating, because
Yeah.
I think that's something that they've been used to saying. So their parents used to say it, so they're saying it. I don't know.
Well, it has long cultural context and history.
Okay.
And that's also connected to the fact that they've been under Ottoman rule for 500 years. So for them, being Christian back then, it like that's literally was the separation between our people and the enemy, you know. And I might be really making it sound wrong at this point,
no, but
because I might have some historical inaccuracies. But anyway,
no, but that makes sense though. To keep yourself separate, you kind of got used to saying, "Oh yeah, I'm Christian," because you know I wouldn't identify myself.
It was their way of keeping their identity while being under occupation. Like, you know, every word I say is potentially dangerous. Some people say there wasn't occupation, and others say like, "Oh, come on, this was genocide." Like, anyway, I'm not Bulgarian, so don't take me as the first authority.
So you were saying regarding where
so for that part of the society, I think it's like a whole other topic, because I don't really consider, like, it's just not no matter how we use the word religion in this context, it's not a religious person. They don't. If you follow up with the question after asking, "Are you Christian?" they say yes, and you say, "Do you believe in God?" they'll say no. But wait a second. So that's like a whole other topic,
right?
And in that area, I think it's separate, because there are more things in it, and I don't think it's actually part of question of faith and what we're looking at today. But there is another part, which is people who are actually active to an extent, active members of some kind of religious community, a church, or something else. And it's interesting that it seems like, you know, the society itself, part of it is growing this negative attitude.
Okay.
And then I see people within even Christian communities having also negative kind of attitude towards their own people.
Meaning?
Well, looking at the society, I see that there is a growing unhappiness with religion at a whole, but also in Bulgarian context, that means Christianity specifically. I've seen many different things.
Okay.
I've been to different places, and because of all the things I'm involved in, I've met many different people, and I could hear how they're feeling. I could see what they're doing. And also just talking to some of my friends, at some point, I actually got scared, like for real, because sometimes you'd see this person who seems totally fine, or even like popular or something. I mean, within church.
Within church, yeah.
And they're involved in different things, and, you know, kind of good person, what people call.
Okay.
And then we talk, and they say, "Man, I really don't get it anymore." Or, everyone has some kind of questions at some point, and everyone has doubts of some sort. But what I'm seeing is that it's more than that. And we actually hear more things like that these days. There is a whole wave, it seems like, prominent leaders of worship bands and Christian bands, all sorts of church religious figures and leaders who say, "You know what, guys, I lost my track." And they don't just say that as a, I'm going to take a pause, like a sabbatical. They say, I don't know what I'm doing. And they say, "You know what, I quit." And that's like, what? Because when that happens, it hits many people around those people. And that's part of the issue as well. But when someone falls, a lot of people around them get, smashed by the waves, by the shock waves.
Yeah.
Because some people are actually looking up to them.
I mean, because when you see that, like, when you see people, like, completely, like you said, like, leaving the faith and not just a pause, but leaving the faith, you'd wonder, like, how grounded they were at the first place,
Yep.
Because, like, even I think when it comes to, like, when you suggested this topic, I was just kind of like thinking, man, like, I don't know, like, in my journey or my personal journey, like, I don't know what my future holds. I don't know what God's got for me, like, the things that I have to face. And, everything's going to be a constant, like, how much do I trust God? How much do I believe in God, But to see that people who we perceive as like, oh yeah, they're really like ground, for them to see, to have doubts where they're at, you know, being so established, you know, at least in our eyes. But, you know, you know, like, you're like, ah, man, I don't know. Because if that's how someone who already is grounded in faith represents it, how much more will be people who are just observing him and are not even at that point, at least, you know, like they're watching him and they're like, oh, you know what? If he's going to fall, then why? Like, yeah, exactly. Because people are observing, people are constantly observing you, you know, even though people are like, you know what, even in my, you know, university circles and things like that, even if like people don't want to identify to being a certain, or like I'm not with any religion, they do notice things. Like one of my friends the other day was like, oh yeah, so that happens in so it's one of your church friends. Like people know these things, even though I haven't said anything like extravagant about my life in church and things like that. She knows, you know, because she observes what I'm posting and things like that. So, but like when you, at least for the youth nowadays, let's talk about Bulgarian youth. Do you think they have a yearning to know God?
Ooh, you know, asking me this, it's like sitting me down on a dynamite, because I'm involved with a lot of youth work. And if anyone hears this, they'll be like, oh, Dima.
I can't believe it. Yeah.
No, I love this question because the reason I've stayed in Bulgaria, and maybe I should have said this when you asked me, tell me something about yourself. You know, I've spent 8 years of my life here now. And I've been asking myself many times, why? But I always actually, when people ask me why, I have a very strong answer and I actually believe in it. And I believe that God placed me here on purpose. The way I came here is really not normal. I mean, so many things had to happen for me to end up in Bulgaria. You know, we say end up as if it's like, meh. No, for me, it's one of the biggest stories of my life. And I didn't leave. I came to study. Like, formally, if you look outside of my life, that's what happened. I came to study. I finished. I graduated in 2015. So it's been 5 years now since I graduated. And I'm still here.
Yeah.
And, you know, my flatmate, he says, Dima, you've been made for Western Europe. You need to go and like seek better places and la la la. You're worth it. And I'm like, well, cool, thanks. I mean, that's a compliment, kind of. But no. And I've had friends inviting me, going like, you know, come and surf with us in this other cool country. I'm like, no, sorry. And this has been a long prelude to your question, because the reason I'm staying is because of this generation, these kids. When I first came here, I saw this radical contrast between what I'm used to seeing in Ukraine and what was happening here. Because nobody noticed them from what I saw. People didn't really see that they have this whole, you know, wave, a tsunami coming up. These awesome young people who can literally fix all of their problems, kind of.
Wow.
Because Bulgaria is interesting, and I think I'm making a very long detour here, but in Bulgaria, because of when it joined EU, and because of how long time has passed since then, we're in the middle of this demographic kind of crisis.
Right.
Because people who are in their prime, so to say, they're abroad. They left the country to study, to work. So Bulgaria as a country is left with 3 major generations. The people who survived communism, who are now, you know, trying to survive on a pension.
Right.
Then there are children who are now driving the economy, basically, and the church too. So in churches, that would be the pastors and the main leaders. They're, you know, 40s, 50s. There are also big bosses in the business. But then their children are not here.
Right.
So people who are 20, 30 years old, they're not in the country. And the next big wave are the teenagers.
Right. Wow.
And they're like, the number of them is much higher than these 2 generations. And if nothing changes, they'll leave actually as well. But I saw that by the time they enter the workforce, because that's when
Right.
you notice them. That's when people give them a generational name. They realize, oh,
Right.
wait, we've had them all along. It's going to be too late.
Right.
And I mean, for church to notice them. And because there is this other statistic, and maybe you've seen it as well, that in the States at least, our generations, I mean, people who are in their 20s and less, they have this pattern of if they leave the church before they become students, they won't come back.
Oh, okay.
And something like 80% of young people leave church the moment they graduate from high school.
Wow.
It's like insane. And maybe someone can fix me, but that's what I keep hearing all the time.
Okay.
But there is actually a very interesting plot twist there, because they leave and most of them don't come back.
Don't come back, yeah.
And that's part of the reason why, I had this question, will this all just disappear? Because if people just quit, I mean, but there is a plot twist, because people who have been involved in mission, in serving others, statistic among them is the opposite.
Right.
So people who had a chance to practice their faith and their religion, people who had a chance to actually see it in action, they don't have the same kind of, issues. Of course, everyone has challenges in their lives, but they didn't quit.
Wow.
There is another crazy statistic, and it led to a very bold statement by Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay.
So Facebook's CEO, in 2017, at a company address or something like that, a big event, he made a claim that because church attendance globally is dropping consistently, Facebook needs to step up and fill that gap. Can you believe that?
Really? He did that?
That's my, summarization of his words, but you can look it up. His speech is public. And he literally suggested that Facebook, with its AI algorithms and Facebook groups and communities, can replace religion, basically.
Wow, that's insane, yeah.
That is insane. I mean, for some people, for my colleagues on the bus, that sounds, perfect, cool. Give them some kind of Facebook group, they'll be fine. If that's what they need, let them have the Facebook group. And that's just ridiculous. But your question was different. It was about the next generation.
Yeah.
I stayed because I believe they can change things, and because I know that the decisions they'll take will define the future of the church in Bulgaria and of Bulgaria as well. And I see both extremes. I see people who are, no matter what the circumstances are, who are just so deeply rooted in God. And there are people who don't have a community around them, and they still stand strong. So it's not about the Facebook group. It's not about, it's hard for them.
Yeah.
But they still have their roots. And there are people who are on the other side, and they're, surrounded by all the best resources, and they have, large community, lots of friends at church. And they end up saying, you know what, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of a side effect of growing up in a Christian family.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think in this, you see one thing that is being done in this generation is that you see a lot of questions being asked. And one of the things that I heard when I was listening to the talks was that they were saying now, okay, the younger generation is kind of, rather than identifying to an institution, oh, you know what, I'm part of this, let's say in part of Christianity, this group of people or this group, they might not be necessarily going into churches as their parents were, but there's definitely raising questions. And I don't think that because at the end of the day, it's God, that's what blows my mind, because, how can you ever not have a space for someone who created you, I listened to this other person who said, and he was Muslim, and he said, every human being is hardwired to see God. We might deny it. We might spend our whole lives be like, nah, like, I'm doing just fine. But honestly, like whether you accept it or not, that's your choice.
Yeah.
But that's something that's been like, I always think, because, that's why at the end of our lives, even like, sometimes people say like, oh, I don't know, I don't understand the meaning, and like, because that heart question can only be answered by God, and we try to fill it with a lot of things that, around us, and, but when you think, okay, this particular space is for God, can you possibly think you can fill it with something else? Because this is a space for God, and I think a lot of questions regarding religion and rules and things will fade away if you actually understand who God is,
Exactly.
Like, I think it's because now I see, to some aspect, I see why the younger generation are falling away from, religious institutions, because it's about, you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do, like, it's all about the rules. And they're like, okay,
And those rules sometimes go to extremes and people don't buy them. They say like, what's up with the dress code? I mean, because there are places who are very specific about things.
Yeah, like, yeah, and it's more, because then people tend to focus more about the rules, and even the people who are imposing, like, not imposing, like, who are putting up the rules, like, even they forget the God in it, and it becomes more about the rules and like, oh, this is how it's done. But the thing is, all these questions can be answered if you begin with God, and not begin with the rules. I think we were recently having a conversation, I think, with like our mutual friends, and they were saying, the first most primal question is the God question, and not like, oh, you know what, are you doing this, so that means you're a good Christian, or like that's what makes you a good Christian. No, it's like because you do all these things because you love God, not that you do all these things in order to love God. It's not.
Yes.
It doesn't go like. So it's just. I think when, personally, like, when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking, oh man, like I don't think. When I think of religion, I'm thinking about God. And, like, for me, that's what it is, because people could take it however they want. For me, like, when you say religion, it's Christianity, and Christianity means God. Like, for me, that's how I tie it in. And I don't think that, that would ever die out. Personally, for me, I don't, but like, how do you, let's say in the Bulgarian society, how do you see that change coming in? You guys, that's all we had time for our first part of Is Religion Dying? And honestly, I cannot wait for you guys to hear the rest of what Dima had to say, because he drops some gold. And stay tuned, guys. Until next time, see ya!